All right, today here we're chatting with Scott. Scott is the president of Avatar. We're going to kind of dive in a little bit deeper, talk about what fuels him, why he's here, and learn a little bit more behind the scenes of Avatar. So, Scott, hi.
Let's go.
So, what brought you to Avatar? What brought you to the industry? And why are you still here?
So Jess, it started with a man named Mark Gardner. Back when I was a kid, just trying to make a buck, I had no job. I was getting my MBA, and 6'4" dude with a top hat and what can only be described as like a butler outfit. He'd be pretty offended, but it was like a full tuxedo, like Dumb and Dumber, but just traditional black and white. And it was speed dating. And like all things in life, kind of random. They just had an odd number of people for these undergrads, and they just threw me in to make it so that the drive worked. And I just hit it off with Mark. They turned the lights off, and we were still talking. And if you know Mark or me, that wasn't very hard, right? We'd still be talking about it. And I was just curious. I mean, he told me about the problems about the driver market, the experience he's had in school bus, trucking, if it's big in a CDL holder. And I was like, this seems interesting. This seems big and bad. And he said the line that ATA was peddling at the time, right? If you bought it, a truck brought it, and go, everything comes on a truck. Like this touches it. And then you start thinking about the drive, and he would tell me about, he goes, the quality of the life of the drivers, he goes, from some of the fleets it's completely crap, and for some of the fleets it's fantastic. And these are people that are good blue. I'm an immigrant son, and so grew up in Parma, Ohio, with some good people at the auto plant, and that was kind of a calling of how can we help people that are out there just trying to work hard and make their jobs suck less, right? What if they actually like their job? What if they could put bread on the table and actually like it in the blue collar space? And to me, that was it. I was a Spanish major. I didn't wake up going like I'm gonna get in the trucking industry. Garner just painted the problem, and I went, that seems interesting.
I love that. Okay.
Here I am 13 years later.
So, what fuels you to stay here then?
Well, the driver problem still exists. Unfortunately, we haven't solved it in the first decade, maybe in this next decade. Because I think it's big and hairy, and it's the almost unsolvable problem is what's appealing. So it's a really hard Rubik's Cube. And I'll go back to what I said was real people's lives happen if what we're doing, if we help people, if we help the right companies grow. Let's be real. There's some fly-by-night companies out there. Mm-hmm. They're not good fits for us. Mm-hmm. So we like working with good, honest, hardworking companies. So if we can help them with their marketing, find more people, and so that we can play matchmaker with good quality drivers, and we help those companies be successful, they'll get more business from their customers. And if we help their compliance and safety team automate bullshit so they can actually go work on coaching to bring those drivers home safely. And that's the appeal. I haven't had to do it, but I've heard terrible stories of people that have to knock on the doors, 2:00 in the morning and say, your father's not coming home. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to quantify, like how many lives did we save over the years? I don't know. But like that accident didn't happen Tuesday, but that's part of the what gets you up and going.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, what about a personal lesson that you've learned from the industry that you carry with you every day?
A personal lesson from the industry. I'm gonna go with perspective. So the lesson perspective is whatever it is you got in front of you ain't gonna be the end of the world, right? The sun will still rise in the east and set in the west. And so I think it's transportation, it's business, it's that we kind of get worked up, we build these anxieties, this meeting's gonna be really tough, how are we gonna go with this customer, how are we gonna solve this problem? And then when you look back, it's never really as hard as you thought it was. We work up stuff in this, and that's something for my own sanity to sleep better at night, and then to pass on to our children of how can we help them tackle these problems that we frankly manufacture between our ears. From the cave days, we were concerned about getting eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. That was a real fear because that could happen. But since we don't have tigers rolling around behind us, we manufacture them and we turn that customer meeting into that tiger, and just that perspective of, look, it's a serious game because people's lives are at the line, but we're not going to die.
Okay. I should use that every single day. So tell me something, let's flip gears to Avatar. Tell me something that excites you that's up and coming with the company.
Incident management, baby. Why? No good solution I've seen out there that people are loving. I see a lot of spreadsheets. I see a lot of, I don't really know. We just kind of do this. We're not really sure what to do with this data. I see simple problems of collecting the data at the scene. And why this is really important that we can help people is the number one, I'm hearing insurance costs are going through the roof. And so as that continues to, and people can be having great years, right? Their accidents per million miles can be flat, and their insurance costs are still going up because of claims inflation. Mm-hmm. And so things we know, you got to be fast. You got to beat Morgan & Morgan to the scene. You got to be able to settle it, whether you're at fault or not. Things that frustrate me about our country is you're guilty until proven innocent, and you're the big bad truck motor carrier, the big bad trucking company or bus company, and you got to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, but you're starting as guilty. And so how can you control that narrative in this unfair game that has been set up? And the thing is, that's controlling, it's that quiet, inflation is that quiet cost of raising goods, and it's starting with this. So, it's not the only factor why eggs are $12 a dozen, wherever the hell they are. It's part of the factors contributing to it.
Okay. Let's take this a little bit more surface level. Tell me why Bob, who works in safety at ABC Fleet, is interested in the accident incident. What is it doing for him every day?
Well, all right, I'll tell a story. So we have a customer that's got 200 vehicles, 250 to be exact, since we've been marketing for them, they've been successful. They have about 20 open incidents at any given time. And so of those, 5 are going to be claims. And the key is they got to those 5, he's got to manage until they're closed. And any one of those is manageable, but one could pop. And he's in a captive. And that would not only blow up his day, his month, his year, and then years to come because of higher insurance premiums. And a lot of times what we see when these giant claims happen is many times the trucking company wasn't at fault or the bus company wasn't at fault. But again, it doesn't matter. So why does he care? It's things where you could be in the right and it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. So how you manage it, and it starts at that moment, like the second you get that call, how quickly you move, how quickly you triage the situation and what to take. I mean, these are things that are going to absolutely control whether the company stays in business, whether they can get insurance, or if they're just going to best case scenarios, their insurance costs just go through the roof. Mm-hmm. So that's why Does It Care is controlling what we see as one of the top, if not the top, increasing costs in the company.
Okay, so we're giving him a toolbox, we're putting it all in one place, and we're ensuring that he's reacting from the moment it happens, and then keeping him on kind of point until it's completed.
Amen. We say fight or pay. You got to know if you got to fight or pay. And you might be paying even if you're right, but if you're at fault and there's an issue with clerical work with the driver, you just need to know that. Mm-hmm. And you might be stroking checks early and off, but that will at least stop the bleeding.
Awesome. And
if you're right, go fight.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we're giving them the entire narrative. We're pulling it all together and giving them a clear picture of what to present when they're hitting that desk. Okay. And final one, I'm a huge advocate for bringing people in the industry. So I want to ask you, what is one piece of advice you would give to somebody who's new and coming into the industry?
Be curious. And I would say to anyone coming into any industry, and it's the be curious is ask the questions. You got 2 ears and one mouth. And then the best way to do that is observe. So the way I learned the industry from a kid getting his MBA to doing it was that Mark put me in that situation. He had me recruiting drivers. I didn't know what recruiting drivers was about until I went out and I tried to negotiate with Indeed and set up an ad budget and then figure out, should I do that again next month or should I split it somewhere else? What happens, I partnered with a recruiter, Karen, who was outstanding and taught me the ropes. But until I jumped on the phone, I didn't really understand what she was going through. And that taking those calls at 2 a.m., I'm like, oh yeah, this phone doesn't stop, right? I'm out there celebrating as the marketer that I'm giving her leads, but are they the right leads? And so I think it's that walking in someone else's shoes to experience it. So asking the questions of being curious, but then there's no better way to learn than by to do.
Well, thank you for your time. I hope everybody enjoyed learning a little bit more about Scott, the president here at Avatar. And guys, keep an eye out. Look out for some more videos similar to this.